Cornish Mining World Heritage Site. The Duke of Bedford's Grand Plan. Tavistock Town. The sound of a shaft bell will tell you that a new track is about to start, but you may pause the trail at any point if you would like more time to look around.
Welcome to Tavistock, a vibrant market town and the urban jewel of the Cornish Mining World Heritage Site.
This walk takes in some fascinating features, but also takes you along a pathway beside an unguarded and at times fast-flowing river, as well as a busy road. Please take care not to place yourself or others at risk whilst enjoying the trail. Start the trail in Bedford Square, in front of the Town Hall. Point 1. Bedford Square, in front of the Town Hall.
There are links between Tavistock, Dartmoor and the Tamar Valley throughout Tavistock's history. During the 13th century, Dartmoor was the richest source of tin in the world. The medieval tin industry first stretched from Dartmoor across to Hingston Down in Cornwall. The century between 1800 and 1900 profoundly changed the face of Tavistock, and most of this change was implemented by its powerful patrons, the Dukes of Bedford. From the late 18th century, copper and lead mines opened around Mary Tavy on Dartmoor and across the Tamar Valley. When the Industrial Revolution really took hold in rural West Devon during the 19th century copper and arsenic mining, engineering industries and the construction of transport networks all created a boom economy. Tavistock was one of the medieval stannery towns responsible for regulating Devon's trade in tin. A stannery is a tin mining district, and the Devon stannaries comprised of most of Dartmoor and had 4 administrative towns. Tin was extracted high up on Dartmoor by tinners, who dug cassiterite, the valuable and heavy ore, from stream beds and former river deposits. They processed the ore by crushing it mechanically with water-wheeled powered stamps and smelting it in furnaces known as blowing houses, a kind of blast furnace with bellows operated by water wheel. They then brought metal by pack horse to the town, where periodically it was weighed, tested for purity and taxed. Output was subject to a royalty to the Duke of Cornwall, who owned most of the mineral rights on Dartmoor. Bedford Square is where the 7th Duke of Bedford's great wealth is most flamboyantly on show. He gained much of this through copper royalties from Devon Great Consols Mine, which was discovered in the Tamar Valley in 1844. Construction of this whole area was financed by a £20,000 lease renewal fine imposed upon the owners of the Devon Great Consols, an event which caused an uproar in mining circles of the day. Investors, or adventurers as they were known, felt that they were already heavily burdened by the demands of mineral lords who seemingly did nothing and ventured nothing, yet took all they could squeeze in royalties, even in the toughest of times. Slum properties in the area of St Matthew Street were demolished, and in their place the present pannier market was constructed. The term pannier refers to the baskets of goods which were brought to the market. The relocation of the market to its present location coincided with the building of shops in nearby Duke Street in the early 1860s. This was a time of optimism when the local economy was still buoyant from farming and mining. There were important foundries near here too, where steam engines, mining and agricultural machinery were made in the heart of the town. The street is an early example of a planned shopping centre which reflected confidence in the future of the town.
Now let's head off to follow one of the region's famous engineering achievements, the Tavistock Canal. Turn left and walk to the pedestrian crossing just in front of Abbey Bridge, passing under the watchful gaze of the 7th Duke of Bedford in Guildhall Square. The Gothic-style Guildhall, which opened in 1848, is on your left. Incidentally, His Grace's statue, unveiled in 1864, is bronze, made of copper and tin raised on the Duke's estate. On the far side of the crossing, turn left and then immediately right, taking the path known as Abbey Walk beside the River Tavy. Tavy means little river, and stock a settlement, hence the origins of the town's name. After a few yards, there is a good view back to the bridge, which was built in 1763 to replace a medieval bridge further upstream. Pause to notice the modern mechanical structure which reaches into the river beside the path at this point. It marks the intake of the Tavistock Canal. The weir below the bridge raises the water level to feed the canal. Point 2. Tavistock Canal intake.
This marks the eastern point where the rivers Tavy and Tamar were connected by the opening of the Tavistock Canal in 1817. This enterprise was conceived by John Taylor, who, in 1798, at the age of 19, joined Wheel Friendship Copper Mine at Mary Tavy. The mine soon became the richest copper and lead mine in Devon, ranking alongside some of the richest of the Cornish copper mines at the time. Taylor became engineer and resident manager of the Tavistock Canal at the start of its construction in 1803, although he left Tavistock in 1812 to embark on an illustrious and almost unparalleled career in mine management, engineering and investment.
We will see much more of the canal later, but for now continue along the riverside path. The dark yet usually clear water of the Tavy flows below, and the late medieval battlemented walls of Tavistock's Benedictine Abbey will be on your right. After a few hundred metres, take the second archway and steps on your right which lead into a car park. This was once ore storage floors for the copper and lead mines in the Mary Tavy area. Now head for the cluster of old buildings at the car park entrance, taking care when crossing the car park. Walk around and pause at the cobbled area on the other side, safely off the road and overlooking the canal where it emerges from under a bridge. Point 3. Tavistock Canal Wharf.
This wharf was the terminus for the barges which once worked the canal from Tavistock to the port of Morwell Ham on the River Tamar, a total distance of 4.5 miles. This included a 1.5 mile long deep tunnel beneath the Morwell Down. Morwell Ham was once the busiest copper ore port in Queen Victoria's empire and had a long relationship of trade with Tavistock. You will notice that the water emerges from a low arched bridge beneath the road and moves slowly yet steadily. There is a slight gradient along the length of the canal, allowing it to be used as both a waterway and as a leat to power water wheels at mines and farms along the way. There were quays for loading and unloading at the sides of the canal. The buildings here are contemporary with the early days of the canal from 1816 to 1819. They comprise of a 2-storey granary over the canal with arched loading doors to the roadside. Offices for the canal company, now a Quaker meeting house, and canal workers' housing. The houses are slate hung against the weather as Tavistock is frequently wet.
From here, go back to the car park and turn right towards the wharf, one of the old canal basin buildings, formerly a coal store. It has a convenient cafe and there are tables outside in fine weather overlooking the canal. Keeping the swimming pool on your left, turn in front of it to join the canal towpath. Point 4. The Meadows, River Tavy and Tavistock Canal. Turn left and walk towards the little bridge which spans the canal. From here the canal flows into an area called the Meadows, a substantial open area.
From time immemorial, townspeople have strolled, met, played and picnicked here. It was, however, private property in the ownership of the Bedford estate, who let it out as Hay Meadow. In 1898, in response to strong local pressure for the provision of a recreation ground, Hebrand Russell, the 11th Duke, agreed to offer the site to the town council on a lease. In 1911, it was withdrawn from the sale of the Bedford estate properties when the Tavistock Urban District Council agreed to buy it, along with substantial public properties, and to maintain it on behalf of the town.
Stroll along the towpath of the Tavistock Canal with its resident ducks and views across to Tavistock Tennis Courts and Sir Francis Drake's Bowling Club.
This is a good time to view the relatively narrow and shallow character of the canal. 16 feet wide and less than 3 feet deep. Imagine horses pulling iron barges laden with copper and lead ore. At the terminal basin of the canal, located high on the hillside above the port of Morwell Ham, a water wheel, driven by canal water, provided extra hauling power. A counterbalanced inclined plain railway led to the quays.
At the far end of the meadows, there is an underpass on the left. Take this, and when you emerge, turn right up the steps or slope, facing the road. Turn left and walk a few paces forward. The canal will be on your left, and across from it you can see the Fitsford cottages. Point 5. Fitsford, Bedford cottages, Tavistock Canal and the church.
This area is called Fitsford, after the Fitz family, who once lived in a mansion near here. The gatehouse faces the roundabout containing the statue of Sir Francis Drake, Tavistock's most famous son, given by Hastings, 9th Duke of Bedford, in 1883. It is the source of much ghostly legend associated with Lady Mary Howard. Her evil father, Sir John Fitz, was a murderer and the scourge of Tavistock in the 1600s, and Mary was said to have murdered her 4 husbands. A coach made of the bones of Mary's 4 dead husbands, driven by a headless driver, is said to take her nightly to Oakhampton Castle in the company of a black dog with blood-red eyes. Fitsford cottages consist of 6 terraces totalling 36 cottages. Each has a generous front and rear gardens line the other side of the canal. They were built in 1862 by the Duke of Bedford. You will see more of these industrial model cottages everywhere in Tavistock. Indeed, here and in the surrounding area there were around 300 altogether.
Now look up to the grand Fitsford Church, designed by Henry Clutton for William the 8th Duke.
It opened in 1867 to meet the needs of a growing, predominantly working-class population, at a time when the town continued to spread westward. Built in an Italian style that the Duke favoured, it cost £12,000. No sooner had the church opened than the bottom fell out of the local copper mining economy. A viable congregation for the new church never materialised, as the population began to fall as out-of-work miners left for South Africa, America, India and other far-flung places where new mines were being opened up. After years of struggle, it was closed in 1914 to reopen for a brief period between 1936 and 1947. In 1952, the Church of England passed it on to the growing Roman Catholic community, and it was reconsecrated as the Church of Our Lady of the Assumption.
If you are interested in the Bedford model cottages, then a short detour to Westbridge is recommended. This can be reached by turning around and following the pavement along the road, passing the primary school on your right, taking care along the busy road. You will soon reach the bridge just before the roundabout. Westbridge, built in 1940 to replace an older bridge, is soon encountered. If you don't want to walk to Westbridge cottages, head for Drake's statue on the roundabout and take the pavement on the left-hand side of Plymouth Road. Point 6. Westbridge cottages.
The view over its parapet reveals pleasant ranks of Westbridge cottages beside the River Tavy. There are 64 in total, the centrepiece of the Duke's model industrial workers' housing. They were to a standard design of living room, kitchen, scullery, 2 or 3 bedrooms and a garden plot. This included a pigsty and a standpipe shared with a neighbour. On the walls of these cottages, as with other buildings for which the Dukes of Bedford were responsible, there are ducal coronets and letter Bs. Look for them in the gables in particular. The average cost of construction was £70, and rents varied between 1 and 6 and 2 shillings per week, reasonably affordable for miners who typically earned £3 a month. All cottages were eagerly taken up.
Whether returning from Westbridge or from Fitsford cottages, now head for Drake's statue on the roundabout and take the pavement on the left-hand side of the straight and wide Plymouth Road. This points back to Bedford Square.
Sir Francis Drake, by the way, will be familiar to most visitors, and the canal, flowing westward, passes by his birthplace at nearby Crowndale Farm. To learn more, why not pay a visit to Buckland Abbey, his former home, now in the care of the National Trust.
Continue up Plymouth Road, which Sir Francis Drake is facing, for 300 metres. Point 7. Plymouth Road, elegance and opulence.
Plymouth Road was built in the 1830s to 1840s as a wide road leading westward from the town centre. It is flanked by Georgian and early Victorian terraced villas, which were the homes of gentry, professional classes and wealthy citizens.
Keep walking up Plymouth Road. Just before the bus station, take the left-hand road and continue up it for a few metres, with the station on your right-hand side. Point 8. Methodist churches.
Methodism was the popular faith of the Cornish miners, and chapels are to be found in every Cornish mining district, both at home and overseas. There were in 19th century Tavistock 3 chapels, each representing a different branch of Methodism. With the closure of one chapel in 1911 and another in 1961, there is today just one Methodist chapel, located in Chapel Street. This building for the Wesleyan Methodists was opened in 1857. The former Bible Christian Chapel in Russell Street is today the United Reformed Church.
Retrace your steps and rejoin Plymouth Road. Carry on until the parish church of St Eustatius is reached on your left. It stands opposite the Bedford Hotel.
This building dates from 1318, when it was parallel to and separated from the larger Tavistock Abbey Church by only a narrow strip of land which was used as the graveyard. The dedication of the parish church was to St Eustatius, an officer of the Roman army. He was converted to Christianity on the hunting field after he saw a deer with a luminous cross between its antlers and heard the voice of God. He refused to worship pagan gods and was martyred in Rome. It was only one of 3 such dedications in England. Major changes to the building took place over the next 2 centuries, the most significant being the addition, in 1445, of the second south aisle. Called the Cloth Workers' Aisle, this reflected the importance to the town of its major industry. Other interesting features of the church include fine tombs of the Fitz and Glanville families and some fascinating stained glass windows. These include a window designed by William Morris of the arts and crafts fame and a large shareholder in nearby Devon Great Consols mine.
On the opposite side of the road is the Bedford Hotel. Point 9. Bedford Hotel.
The Bedford Hotel building owes its origins to around 1720, when tenant Jacob Saunders knocked down the former Abbey refectory to build himself an expensive house. But his son died without children, and the lease was bought by the Bedford estate. Known as Abbey House, it provided accommodation for the stewards of the Devon estates from 1752 to 1819. In 1822, it was converted into an inn. In deference to the former abbey, this was built in the Gothic style and is now the Bedford Hotel.
Point 10. Return to Bedford Square and the Tavistock Museum.
The facade of Tavistock Town Hall facing Bedford Square is one of the best-known town centre views in the West Country. It was opened in February 1864 with a programme of celebrations that went on for 3 days and featured, in particular, an exhibition of rare and valuable works of science and art. Tavistock Town Council owns the hall and hires it out for public and other events. The pannier market, behind the town hall, was completed in 1862, and its walls are made from Herdwick stone with a slate roof and a granite floor. The right to hold a weekly market in Tavistock was first granted by Henry I in 1105 to the monks of Tavistock Abbey. When the monasteries were dissolved in 1539, the abbey's right to hold markets and fairs was transferred to the Russell family, who, like the abbots before them, collected revenue from the traders. Before finishing, one small building also deserves a mention: Tavistock Subscription Library. This was founded in 1799 by mining engineer John Taylor of Holwell House, Whitchurch, and others including Mr. Bray, later a vicar of Tavistock. The 6th Duke of Bedford became its president and the institution settled into its current premises around 1830. It was and still is a subscription library and an important documentary resource for the people of Tavistock. It may be found between Court Gate and the police station in Guildhall Square. But upstairs is the present Tavistock Museum, the imposing and elegant galleries, formerly a lecture room and library, of the original subscription library may still be seen. Take the opportunity to learn more of the fascinating 1,000 years of Tavistock's history. The route has not taken in the 3 town foundries. A significant remnant of Bedford Foundry can be found by walking up through Market Street to Lakeside, where part of the works is now an undertaker's establishment. It has an information board outside. Additionally, there are a number of buildings associated with Mount Foundry, or Tavy Ironworks, in Parkwood Road, and large foundry buildings of Tavy Ironworks either side of the river adjacent to Stannery Bridge Road. We hope you have enjoyed this insight into the urban jewel of the Cornish Mining World Heritage Site.
If you want to learn more about Cornish mining, you can download our Delve Deeper guide, available from www.cornishmining.org.uk.